we've been talking about the worldly winds. I looked back in our records. We began talking about them in August. I can safely say that we have talked about them all fall. Praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and shame. Best to create a holding environment that can weather the weather, because you never know what's going to happen. So let's try to not control the weather, but let's give attention to creating a holding environment that can hold you and hold what's really happening. I think Rumi says it best in the opening lines of his poem, Guest House. He says, being human is like a guest house. Now just think about that statement. This being human is like a guest house. Each morning, a new arrival. Isn't that so? A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. We didn't know how we were going to wake up in the morning, but here it is. We don't know who's going to come knocking on the door, but there they are. So true, so true. You never know what's going to come your way. I mean, really, nothing personal, because it happens to all of us. These winds are blowing, and unexpected visitors and unexpected surprises internally and externally up here. And this is what happened to us last week. Oh my gosh, plenty of visitors, real live human visitors who've come, and unexpected surprises, for better and for worse. Really, really. And what does Rumi suggest that we do when these visitors come? Well, he suggests that we welcome them all, not reject them. Don't reject them. No. He says, he goes a little further. The translator translates the word as entertain them. He says, entertain them. Now, I like to think about that more as akin to what Lee was talking about last week with having tea with them. Let's have some tea or coffee, if you prefer, with the visitor. Let's catch their draft, see what they're really up to, what's going on with them, how do they really feel, what do they need to feel comfortable while they stay here. Each person, each guest is going to need something different, because each has come with their own burdens. And then together, there's this constellation that it makes. And as the gracious host, I'm attending to all of that. We're attending to all of that, right? But let's not forget the gracious host who's attending, right? What does the host need in order to hold space, in order to maintain that kind of space for the visitor to feel welcome? It bears some consideration. So last week, guests arrived from distant and scattered places all over the globe: Arizona, New York, California, Spain. It wasn't planned that way, I assure you. But it just happened that way. And some of these guests were known. They're known to us. They're regular visitors, you could say, and some were unknown. But as always, each time when the guests return, it's as if for the first time. Always different, always changes. Aging does that. Time and experience do that too. And with them comes all kinds of news: joyful news, distressing news, potentially concerning news. A child's developmental progresses, the neighbor who is struggling with a brand new diagnosis of cancer, my beloved who is upstairs right now, quarantined in our bedroom, who had a PCR test on Saturday to confirm a COVID diagnosis. Yes, my friends, 2 vaccinations and a booster later. Okay? Right? So yes, lots of unpredictable news. Best not to get stressed by the changing currents that are already out of your control. So I greeted them, like Rumi suggested. I greeted them with love and appreciation, welcomed them along with masks and hand washing and safety precautions so that everyone could feel safe. And then came having tea and coffee for some of the guests, getting them comfortable and situated, right? And actually relying very heavily on a beloved friend who could translate fully in Spanish. He's fluent in 5 languages. Oh my goodness, what a blessing. And how to translate in Spanish, mi casa y su casa, right? For real, how to say my home is your home. You're welcome here. Sadly, my Spanish is sorely lacking after many years of not using it. But there it was, though, the consideration of how might this person feel, newly arrived, 23 years old, the Dharma friend of a Dharma friend who's coming to stay here and coming into this situation, and how to help him and everyone to feel comfortable and safe. So having tea, settling them in, seeing what they needed. And then here's the secret. I think this is very important. Here's the secret of being a good host, is that we also have to check in and see what we need. See what we need in order to keep upholding that posture so that we don't get sick, so that we can stay healthy, so that we can continue to offer kindness and care. So I'm going to keep it very present tense because it's still going on, right? It's like this is life. But these are, think of the little things that you do for yourself, self-care moves that help you to stay steady, right? What little comforts do you do that are supportive? And one of the things that I do, which is I meditate. I meditate every day, mostly in the morning. And then throughout the day, short practices many times. Standing here, sitting here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there, a few breaths over here. And then evening practice and with gratitude practice. And this kind of helps me to just keep a rudder on that atmosphere of friendliness, that embodied sense of friendliness that I'm really trying to kind of keep a tab on. And these days I take naps. I kid you not, I was never a napper when I was a kid. But boy, oh boy, just laying my body out, stretching it out for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever I've got. Even if I don't sleep, just lying it in repose is very supportive and rejuvenative to the body, even if you're not sleeping. It counts, it helps. The body senses that is from the body's perspective, you're speaking its language. He says, okay, I'll rest. Okay, all right, I get it. Good, don't have to do anything. So helpful. And then I walk and I stand outside. So we're about 10 minutes a walk from the beach, and I'll walk down to the shore. And I like to walk down there and feel the elements, feel the wind and hear the sound of the ocean. And I'll stand there and let the wind kind of come through me as it's meeting the elements inside me, the rattle of the stir of, whatever might be left over from the day. And I just try to smooth it out there. Let the outside elements meet the inside elements and just kind of come back in for a landing like that. Many times coming in for a landing. And then the final things that I do are just like simple things of taking care of, making sure that I'm exercising my body and eating well and having some regular sleep, that I have a bedtime and a get up time. But I find exercise to be very important as a way of kind of making sure the organism is running as smoothly as it can, and that I've opened up the joints so that they're not getting, congested with tension, right? And I eat well. I try to pay attention, especially during the holidays. I'll try to give some attention to being moderate around the indulgences of sweets or beautiful food that people bring to share. I mean, this is one of the beautiful things about the holidays, and we want to appreciate that, especially because it's been a long time, folks, since we've really been able to be with people in good company with them. And we want to partake in that, but we want to just, again, be taking care of this organism. So moderation. But I'll tell you, when I sit down, and of course I did, my dear friend brought this beautiful pecan tart from a bakery in New York. And of course I had a little piece. Oh my goodness, and savored every bite of it, every bite. right? I'm not going to miss out, but I'll have a little bit so I can enjoy that treat as well. That feeds my heart good food. So really begin to consider what it is that you need. So as we invite our guests to have tea, invite yourself to tea. Check in. What do you need to stay upright during these times when it's turbulent, when there's a lot of changing conditions? What helps you to stay steady and balanced, right? This is very important conversation, and this is not outside of the practice. This is actually very much a part of what undergirds the Brahma Viharas, the heavenly abodes, the heart qualities that we cultivate in practice. The sentiment of those practices, of all of these practices, are to others as to myself as to others, to others as to myself as to others. What a beautiful, what this does is this entrains the beautiful heart quality of equanimity. It entrains equality. And this is what mindfulness is doing. So one more thing, back to the poem. At the very end of the poem, Rumi says, he says, to be grateful for all of the guests, basically for the lessons that they've taught. And I think Bill spoke of gratefulness the other day. And gratefulness is a beautiful heart quality. It doesn't have to be this bouncy, joyful gratefulness. Gratefulness can be very quiet. There's a kind of quiet gratefulness to become aware again that I'm alive and I can count my blessings. Seeing my neighbor as he kind of talks about his new diagnosis with cancer and what that means to him. And what that reminds me of is the blessings that I have and the wishing him well. And Bill's health as well, the appreciation of that he is on the mend, which he really is, folks. Please know that he's on the mend. He's doing well every day as you see him sitting here. And these are things to be grateful for, right? Grateful for my son's friend who comes from Spain, who keenly reminds me of, the similarities and the differences that we have from different parts of the world, but yet this common ground of the heart that we all share, this heart of welcoming one another and wanting to feel connected to each other. It's a beautiful thing, and it transcends language, but we feel it. We want to feel connected to each other. So while we can't control the weather, let's give some real attention over these holidays to beginning to cultivate the holding environment so that we create the conditions that can weather whatever storms come to bear, right? So that we can learn to keep loving as we wish to love while we're taking care of ourselves. We can do this. It's for our welfare. And this is what the Buddha recommended. To others as to myself as to others. Thank you kindly for your attention.